Media literacy is just as important as the media itself. It takes not only a good faith interpretation, but one with the right lens to truly get the most out of a story. Instead of asking, is that all? The far better question is, this can't be all that there is to see. Am I tackling this from the wrong angle? Or maybe I haven't thought enough about it. And when looking at stories, this usually requires taking a section or scene of it and relating it to the macroscopic ideas presented. For example, the title, World's Strongest Swordsman. Who does it relate to the most? Well, Zoro, of course. He is one of the main characters. So what does this mean for him? Does this mean he aims to achieve the pinnacle of swordplay and become the new strongest? Well, obviously. But the better question is, what exactly does that mean to him? And what exactly does this title mean to the one currently wielding it? After all, for a green-haired Marimo, that title has represented more than simply gaining individual status since the death of his friend. Let me be clear, I don't prioritize power scaling and relevance to how I gauge the quality of One Piece, or any series for that matter. I have no stake in certain discussions like, is Shanks or Mihawk stronger? That factor has no impact on my overall enjoyment of these two characters nor the story. Though, I will get to my standpoint on that in the course of this video. I am much more concerned about asking the far more interesting question. Why would Shanks, as in current Shanks, seek Mihawk out for the title of World's Strongest, when everything we know about him suggests he has no interest in wearing titles, nor the pursuit of something similarly grand? Take the One Piece. He is only gunning for it now because Luffy is a worthy match, not because he's really trying to grasp it. He seeks only to strengthen the Straw Hat Pirates through a struggle he will bring them. He's been waiting for them. His whole character archetype is to impede great change that might get in the way of his reunion with Luffy to bring the change he wants through Luffy. The Red Force treads still waters for the day his power can create a wave for a different ship to sail ahead of his. This is who Shanks is. Similarly, take Mihawk, a man who's been stagnant all the same. And, just like Shanks, he's waiting for one man that will move him. Zoro had shook Mihawk before, several times in fact. Just as Luffy did to Shanks all those years ago. Mihawk is the world's strongest, but to him, he might be better off if he'd never been gifted with his skills in the first place, as it's just another weight bearing down on his peace. No one can walk with him while standing at the top, a desolate utopia. He entered East Blue on a whim, seeking some reprieve from life's monotony at the peak. He's unfeeling in that he knows the men before him aren't a match, but he'll cut through them anyway. He does not empathize with the crew he's dismantling, since strength and unity is a method foreign to the Hawkeyes. He's always alone because he can't trust, after all. But what he can trust is the vigor of battle, the pride one feels when they are matched with an honor-bound opponent, the way of the sword. We see Mihawk's grace with it that is similar to how Zoro would later cut nothing. What Zoro displayed in this fight was that code necessary to grant potential, and Mihawk responds by betting on its future. Just as Shanks did when he staked so much on the future he saw in a small boy. Both of these figures are waiting for a change they can't bring on their own. To the Mihawk of today, the title of World's Strongest is a promise he'll one day be approached by the pirate hunter again, and in that arena, for the first time in a long time, he'll feel the exhilaration that comes from fighting for something against a man who follows a similar Bushido. But it's not the same. While they both aspire to be the greatest, Mihawk has nothing but it. While much of what has made Zoro the powerhouse he is the bonds he fights to preserve. See my full perspective on Zoro's arc in this short video here, link in the description down below. What Zoro gains against King is balance, equilibrium between his selfishness and selflessness. Perhaps not quite unlike Ryuma. In the same setting that he once defeated foreign enemies, Zoro defends Wano as well. He gains notoriety that he relishes, while also being one of the hands closing the curtains of despair. Did Ryuma not do the same? He kept a potential ancient Kaido from docking on his homeland, and earned the moniker God of the Blade all the while. A title with comparable gravitas to the world's strongest swordsman. And it's because he had what Mihawk lacks. Something Zoro has in spades. This very well may be the edge Zoro utilizes against the lone Hawkeyes. One tranquil blade to carry along his deceased friend as he ascends ambition, an unruly sword that he wills to his side for the sake of the previous wielder's country and his own objective, and a cursed weapon that recognized his greatest strength a long time ago, his supreme faith in his path, a path that is melded with his captain toward a new world. All of these blades gleam a part of himself in the souls of those who empower him. And, for Zoro's final obstacle, there's but one imposing armament weighing down his gate, the black steel of solitude. Though, maybe there's something else Mihawk's heart sees in this inevitable fight. Perhaps it sees loss leading to his salvation, a student he had no reason to take on, yet he hoisted up anyway. And one day, he will return to give him even more novel experiences. Is this not a form of connection? Is this not someone more than an opponent gunning for his throne? The only way to ascend a summit is by throwing oneself at a contender in hopes of learning to soar. Mihawk's screeching blade cannot sing without someone else standing there with the same prideful grin. From this bout, he'll surpass ground or go tumbling down the mountain of his own creation. Either way, he'll have momentum for the first time in a long time, passing down all he has, including his title. He's already passed down so much to Zoro, and his defeat will be all that's left. Inherited will. Mihawk may not have comrades, but what he can still acquire is something just as important, a successor. Shanks already has his, but Mihawk won't be far behind in what he has left to pass down. Shanks has at least one more lesson for the young Straw Hat, one surely conveyed through combat. The same will be true for Mihawk's former student when they clash atop their final battleground. And who knows, maybe the lone Hawkeyes will grow to accept the people currently around him, giving him new strength similar to how Zoro has progressed throughout the series. It is ironically the same man who chooses to seclude himself that recognized Luffy's greatest strength in his attractive banner. It may be by working under a man whose only strength lies in that similar gravity that Mihawk will unlock what he lacks, creating a battlefield even more explosive for his title. The title of Pirate King means so much more than the throne, and it all depends on who's sitting on it. To Shanks, it's a seat better served to someone else. To Blackbeard, it's a never-ending dream of freedom through carnage. To Buggy, it's how he'll prove he's truly one of the greats beyond his old captain's shadow. To Luffy, it's the tool he seeks to carve him toward the end of his dream. And to Roger, the one man who actually held the title, it meant little more than the pinnacle of his era still lacking that pivotal something. Yet, even when faced with reality, while everyone hailed him as the greatest, Roger looked beyond himself and saw a future far greater. And so, he left behind so much for a stronger wave to crash where he could not, creating a stage where many freeborn spirits would surely surpass him. Why would Shanks inherit his captain's technique if he wasn't going to improve it? Why would Blackbeard sail on Zebek's namesake if not for aiming to stir greater chaos? At one point, the echo of an already dead era was embodied in one man, this towering figure with the namesake of the strongest. Yet, while his might did command those around him to heed his title, it also could do little against the momentum of time, both on how it stalled his body and birthed new challengers rivaling his own dominance. Whitebeard's name was a song of the distant past, a melody far louder in a weaker age. Whitebeard was not the strongest, but his will was indeed the mightiest in his final battlefield. A will so profound that it picked up Gold Roger's gust and blasted it around the world once more. And ironically, the emperor that holds almost the same title would fall far short of that. Kaido also wields the moniker strongest, but it's in its nuance that a complex meaning can be found. In generations upon generations ruled by men, Kaido sees a landscape separate from this common factor, a beast who would bring about true dominance. Not with those who can't fight for themselves commanding their true superiors, and enslaving the ones who would otherwise easily destroy them. Kaido would instead grasp the world's throat with his own hands, turning it on its head so that the humans at the top would be immersed in the carnage of true inequality. A suffocating world where the mighty would eclipse those who are not. And if a stronger being washes Kaido away, so be it. It means only that he could never stand at the summit, a notion he'd already submitted to. The world of man is a backwards one, so he must convey the opposite. If they see him as a vile entity of destruction, all the better. It just means he can differentiate himself by being referred to as a creature. After all, he hates living in the confines of their definition of strength. But after facing many men and leaving some bouts inconclusive, he could never test beyond his title. He could never dominate those few contesting wills. And there may even be another creature lurking in a forever veiled aura that wields power far grander than himself. Certainly, at least one man, not a creature or god, proves to be his better. All this to say, you can't take titles in the story at face value and blind yourself from the commonality between them, especially when we're talking about the ones deeming their bearers to be the strongest. Mihawk's title as World's Strongest Swordsman is reserved for those who chase after it, the ones who dedicate their lives to honing the blade, not the people who have something else above it. This is exactly why Zoro had to go through what he did in Wano. He'd never surpass Mihawk while carrying an ambition more important than his own. And Shanks certainly cares not to walk a road only a select few have the laser focus to navigate. He lives far more loosely than that. but it's because he lives on his own terms and fights on his own terms that his presence is so overwhelming. You can take this scene as conveying that Mihawk sees no use in fighting Shanks, as he's already proven to be the man's better. This is a valid interpretation, but also a simple and frankly boring one. I have enough faith in Oda that I see something more interesting at play here. My interpretation is that Mihawk is admonishing Shanks for ever giving up something that he could use to reach for greater heights, and in deference for another person at that. As someone who has reached greatness with his own hands, Shanks' path may seem absurd. So much so that Mihawk refuses to settle the score, since his old rival's ambition sunk with his severed arm. This is not the only time we see Mihawk avoid fighting Shanks, after all. The reality is, though, Mihawk is waiting for a man too, from the same crew at that. It's just that, unlike Shanks, he hasn't fully internalized the value of the connection he has to Zoro. At the end of the day, we have no idea who won out in their various duels. I'd say it's more likely it ended inconclusive. It makes sense that Mihawk can just walk away from Shanks without being stopped. Because why would Shanks care about gunning for a title that has nothing to do with what he wants for the future? Even his armada is notoriously weak, which has potential and probably does stain his title and its association to power. But Shanks doesn't care. The only time we've ever seen him go out of his way is to prevent darkness from taking over the New Age, or of course defending his comrades. That's what gives him momentum, not Mihawk's sexy aura at the top. And for you power scalers, I'll bite. Shanks is a swordsman, but I think I've already done my due diligence in thoroughly laying out why the world's strongest swordsman isn't necessarily over him. Now, let me try my hand at a bit of theory crafting I've had in mind for years now. You see this line? The sword skill being emphasized here I translate as high-level armament haki, or, in Mihawk's case, the highest level. A level so transcendental that it turned his blade perpetually black. The pinnacle of the baseline concept Zoro's master taught him as a child. A graceful blade that can easily tear through ships, but also thwart bullets without so much as denting them. Additional raw might in the form of utilizing Conqueror's coating is obviously a part of Mihawk's repertoire, but I just don't see it as his greatest asset like another strong swordsman we know. See, even these two's flying slashes distinctly tell a different story. Mihawk's are thin and precise, but highly destructive, while Shanks's one attack we've seen is wide, messy, and oppressive. Not at all as graceful as his former rivals, but, at least from my vantage, not being outmatched in its devastation. It's like his overwhelming Conqueror's haki is being translated through his swordsmanship. If you don't see where I'm going with this, I'm merely conveying I see them having two different strengths, but neither necessarily eclipsing the other. Maybe we'll get a definitive answer one day, but realistically, we probably won't. Oda likes to keep things like this vague, and I don't see him ever being more transparent with these two, given that it's irrelevant to Mihawk's greater connection to Shanks. That being, they share an unknown bond as they both wait for a singular person to move them. These two individuals sailing the same ship as one unit, toward one new piece of meat and sake. One Piece, baby!